Welcome back to the deep dive. If you're joining us today, you're definitely in the right place. You're probably like us, right? You crave those aha moments, that feeling of really getting something new and profound, and you want that shortcut, that way to be properly informed without wading through tons of stuff. Well, get ready, because today we are going somewhere truly extraordinary. Imagine a place where the line between myth and reality, it's not just blurry, it's like almost gone. We're talking about a corner of the world where history isn't just in books, it's, whispered in legends, and where magic, well, unbelievably, magic isn't just a story, it's a lived thing, a tradition. So our mission today, we're taking you on a journey deep into Mayong. It's this enigmatic village tucked away in Assam, India. You might have heard it called the Land of Black Magic. Quite a name. We've gathered our sources, done the digging, and now we're here to, well, unpack it all. The history, the really fascinating, sometimes unsettling legends, its whole unique cultural identity. It's all about pulling out the key insights, the most important bits of knowledge for you. And I gotta say, I've been really buzzing about this one. A place so steeped in ancient practices and lore, it's just, well, irresistible to dive into.
Oh, absolutely. It's genuinely rare to find a place where myth, recorded history, and, living belief are so tightly woven together, where these ancient practices still hold such a sort of palpable influence over the community. Mayong really gives us this unique, this profound way to look at how human stories endure, how cultural identities persist, and how they keep shaping a place, even today, in the modern world. It really challenges our usual ideas about reality. That's what makes it so compelling.
Okay, so let's start setting the scene. Where exactly is Mayong? What we've gathered is it's in the Morrigan district of Assam, right on the banks of the Brahmaputra River, the mighty Brahmaputra. And distance-wise, it's not super remote, maybe 47 kilometers from Guwahati, which is a major city. But, beyond just points on a map, what is it about this location that's so important for its identity, for all these legends?
Well, its exact location is incredibly significant. It goes way beyond just map coordinates. You picture it, nestled right on the banks of one of the world's most powerful rivers, the Brahmaputra. And this river, it isn't just water. It's seen as, a lifeblood, a spiritual force, almost a deity in that region. Rivers, in so many ancient cultures, they're like conduits for energy, knowledge, spiritual power. So for a community to be so deeply connected to that kind of force, it suggests this fundamental link to, well, elemental energies, this close relationship with the river. That could definitely be seen as a source of its unique spiritual potency. And at the same time, even though it's fairly close to Guwahati, Mayong has, historically at least, kept a certain amount of separation. So you have this mix, right? Connected by this major river, which usually means trade, cultural exchange, but also kind of isolated from the big city influences. That combination could have been absolutely vital for building its mystique and, really importantly, for preserving its incredibly unique traditions.
A bit of distance, even if it's not huge, often lets communities keep their own distinct ways, away from outside pressures that tend to flatten things out. This kind of geographical sweet spot might have let its ancient practices not just hang on, but really thrive, deepen over centuries without getting watered down.
Right, so it's more than just a spot on the map. It's like a spiritual anchor point. The landscape itself whispers about something ancient, something powerful. That really paints a picture, doesn't it? And when you say spiritual anchor point, my mind immediately goes to that nickname, the Land of Black Magic. Okay, let's unpack this. Land of Black Magic, that's quite a title, isn't it? Our sources really stress this deep link to sorcery, to tantra. But what does black magic actually mean here? Especially since, in the West, we might have a very different idea.
That's a really crucial distinction. We need to be clear about that right away. What's fascinating here is how deeply this association is woven into the identity of the place, suggesting centuries of continuous practice and belief, rather than just isolated incidents or a mere reputation. Think about it like this. In the West, black magic usually sounds pretty sinister, right? Curses, harm, secret groups doing bad stuff is generally seen as evil, destructive. But in the context of Mayong and broader Indian tantric traditions, black magic might actually refer to a specific kind of tantra, which, might deal with darker or, let's say, more potent energies. But it's not necessarily about pure evil. Tantra itself is huge, incredibly complex. It's a system of spiritual practices, rituals, mantras, meditation aimed at, expanding consciousness, gaining certain powers. They call them siddhis. In these cities, they're often described as supernatural abilities, things like healing, controlling elements, maybe even influencing events. Now, some forms of Tantra are called left-hand path or Vamachara, and these might involve rituals that break social norms, break taboos. Why? To achieve spiritual liberation or maybe material gains. And those are often the practices that get labeled black magic or dark arts by outsider, sometimes judgmentally. So the fact that this label is so widespread for Mayong suggests these practices weren't just theoretical ideas, they were actively done. Maybe for lots of reasons. Protecting the village, healing sicknesses doctors couldn't fix, influencing crops, maybe even controlling nature or other people. The kind of power this label implies. It's transformative power. The ability to bend reality to affect outcomes that seem impossible normally. It's about harnessing energies, both seen and unseen, in ways that go beyond ordinary human limits. For the people there, and for outsiders, this label means it's a place of immense, maybe intimidating spiritual power. With this unbroken line of ancient knowledge, it really sets Mayong apart, makes it seem imbued with these extraordinary capabilities that, inspire awe, but maybe also a little bit of fear.
That context really changes things, doesn't it? It moves it beyond just a sensational headline to something.
Yeah, much more nuanced, deeply cultural. So the key insight here, really, is that black magic in Mayom isn't simply good versus evil. It's more about mastering and using these incredibly potent, maybe raw energies to get specific results that defy normal understanding. That's fundamentally different from how we usually hear that term used.
Okay, with that grounding, let's go deeper now into the past. One of the most striking things we found about Mayong's history is this connection to the Mahabharata, the ancient Indian epic. We're talking about a story where Gatotkacha, Bhima's son, this powerhouse figure known for strength and magic, is said to have actually gotten magical powers from Mayong. That's some serious ancient street cred for a village, isn't it?
It absolutely is, and you really can't overstate how significant that connection is. The Mahabharata isn't just a story. It's foundational for Indian civilization. It mixes mythology, philosophy, dharma, history. It's huge. So for Mayom to be mentioned in that text, a story that shaped India's cultural mind for thousands of years, it gives its reputation as a mystical center this immense legitimacy, historical and mythical. It suggests that even way back then, millennia ago, Mayom was already known as a place of extraordinary spiritual power, a place where epic heroes went to, level up their powers. This isn't just some local tale, it's right there in a national epic. That's a powerful stamp of authenticity. The impact here as well has got layers. This is a real aha moment for us. First, it boosts Mayong's status way beyond just a village. It becomes a place of legendary significance. It basically gets the seal of approval from one of India's most sacred, widely known texts. That's incredibly rare for a specific place. Second, it really shapes collective memory. It gives this powerful story that reinforces how the community sees itself and how others see it. Think about it. If a hero like Gatotkacha, famous for magic and strength, went to Mayong for power, it implies that the village had some highly specialized, maybe unique knowledge. It gives it this aura of awe, ancient authority, almost undeniable truth to the practices there. And it's very likely that this story didn't just reflect Mayong's reputation, but actively inspired or reinforced its magical traditions, like a feedback loop between the myth and the practice over generations. Just being mentioned becomes a kind of proof, embedding the idea of Mayong as this source of arcane wisdom deep in the cultural consciousness.
Wow, that's incredible. It's like the myth itself feeds, or at least nurtures, the reality of Mayong's power. But it doesn't just stop with ancient epics, does it? What really got my attention in the sources was this other detail, Mayong's links to powerful old dynasties, like the Danavas and the Ahams. And then, the real kicker, its tantric practices were apparently once banned, even in Kamakya. Now, for anyone who knows about Kamakya, that's not just any spiritual place, right? Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Linking it to powerful kingdoms and practices considered too much even for other major centers.
Exactly. This is where the historical threads get really deep and complex. Those connections to the Danava and Ahom dynasties, hugely significant. The Danavas in ancient texts are often linked to powerful, sometimes mystical, rulers or beings who came before many classic Hindu kingdoms. If they were patrons or connected somehow, that could have given Mayong resources, protection, a kind of royal okay for its practices, allowing them to flourish, maybe even become institutionalized over time. You can imagine maybe royal advisors coming from Mayong, or kings seeking magical help for war or prosperity. It implies a really deep integration into those old power structures. And the Aum kingdom, they were powerful, ruled Assam for nearly 600 years, 13th to 19th century. They also had complex relationships with different spiritual traditions. These dynastic links suggest Mayong wasn't just some isolated spot with magic users. It was strategically or spiritually important to the rulers. Maybe it was a source of esoteric knowledge or spiritual advisors for the kings. That kind of royal backing would give legitimacy, resources, help preserve these unique traditions over centuries, protecting them from outside interference.
And then arrest, the Kamakia detail. To really get the importance of that, you need to understand Kamakia. It's not just a temple. It's one of the most revered Shakti pathos. These are basically power spots in Hinduism, dedicated to the goddess Shakti, the divine feminine energy. They're believed to be incredibly potent places, just pulsing with spiritual power. And Kamakian, it's like the epicenter of Tantra in India. It's known for rituals that are often unconventional, even intense. Things that many mainstream Hindus might find, well, shocking.
Yeah.
So if we connect the dots, the fact that Mayong's tantric practices were reportedly banned even in Kamakia, that is incredibly telling. Another big aha moment. This wasn't some conservative group saying no. This was Tantra itself, a leading tantric center, essentially saying, whoa, what they're doing in Mayong is, it's too much, or too different, even for us. It strongly suggests that Mayong's specific brand of Tantra was seen as extraordinarily potent, maybe unorthodox, maybe even dangerous by Kamakia's own standards. The sources don't spell out why the ban happened, but we can guess.
Maybe it involved rituals that pushed boundaries, even within Tantra, perhaps extreme forms of sacrifice, human or animal, that Kamakia didn't approve of. Or maybe it was a focus on achieving siddhis, powers that were considered too volatile, too uncontrollable if you weren't careful. It points to this unique, perhaps more extreme, more esoteric tradition of Tantra that Mayong held onto, often in isolation. And this kind of internal ban from a powerhouse like Kamakia, it doesn't lessen Mayong's power and reputation, actually kind of amplifies it. It makes Mayong sound almost like this forbidden library of incredibly potent knowledge, cementing its reputation as truly unique and maybe a bit intimidating.
That's a really crucial distinction, yeah. A ban from Kamakia that seriously highlights how unique and powerful Mayong's practices must have been perceived. I can almost hear the whispers about it, the place where Tantra was so extreme, so raw, that even the masters at Kamakia said, hold on. Makes you really wonder about the specifics, doesn't it? Were they tapping into energies or aspects of reality that others just, didn't dare touch?
Precisely. And you see similar things historically in different mystical traditions around the world. There are always groups or individuals who push the limits, sometimes to gain amazing insights, sometimes just to show mastery, often risking, self-destruction or being ostracized. The Kamakia ban seems to put Mayong squarely in that category, the boundary pushers. It implies this raw, maybe primal kind of Tantra, less filtered through more mainstream views, which could have been really appealing to people seeking ultimate power, but also deeply unsettling to others, reinforcing that formidable, somewhat fearsome reputation.
Okay, so with this really deep historical and spiritual background, let's talk about the legends, the stories that have really defined Mayong for centuries. Our sources get right into the heart of this living lore, tales of people just vanishing without a trace, and wild animals being tamed by, seemingly impossible spells. These aren't just old folk tales gathering dust, are they? They feel like they're still alive in the culture, stories whispered even now.
Oh, absolutely. It's a living lore, definitely not just history stuck in books. The way these powerful stories survive, passed down through generations, it shows how deeply they resonate culturally, how they actively shape the community's view of the world. These stories, they play multiple roles, psychologically and culturally, like the tales of people vanishing. They're not just weird local events. They feed this idea that Mayong works by different rules, unseen rules, that its magic can protect its own but be dangerous for outsiders or those who disrespect it. You can imagine a local saying, don't go near that old tree after dark. Someone vanished there once, their footprints just stopped. It creates this deep sense of mystery and caution. And similarly, the stories about taming wild animals with spells. That speaks to this perceived harmony with nature, or maybe even complete mastery over it. It's like this primal wisdom where Mayong's practitioners aren't just living in nature, they're actively influencing it. Think about stories of a rogue elephant, maybe causing destruction, suddenly becoming calm after an elder chants something. Or a tiger, usually fierce, just walking past a village calmly. These aren't just ways to explain weird events. They build the identity of the place. They shape how locals see their world and how outsiders see Mayong. They're like the cultural glue holding together the belief in Mayong's unique magical skill, blurring the lines between what people see, what they believe, and what's possible. It creates this atmosphere where the mystical is just part of everyday reality.
Yeah, you can really see how those stories would become embedded in the collective identity, creating this mix of awe and maybe a little bit of fear. And then there's a specific historical legend that really jumps out from our sources. It goes beyond just individuals disappearing. It's on a much bigger scale, mass disappearances during wars. Specifically, the example of Muhammad Shah's army back in the 1330s. We're talking about an entire invading army supposedly just vanishing, gone.
Right, and this raises a really important question. How do actual historical events get so tangled up with local magic legends? And what does that tell us about how power and war were understood culturally in that region? The legend about Muhammad Shah's army vanishing in the 1330s is a powerful one. It gives us real insight into how communities process historical trauma or huge events using their existing beliefs. Muhammad Shah, he was a powerful sultan from Delhi. A major military defeat or retreat would need a strong explanation. And often, in many cultures, when a strong force gets beaten by a seemingly weaker one, or a campaign goes disastrously wrong, people turn to supernatural explanations to make sense of it. In Mayong's case, saying an entire army, this huge organized force, disappeared because of local magic. That transforms a military event into proofs of the village's incredible, almost superhuman power. It tells you a lot about how Mayong's abilities were seen in the wider region. Was it just a local way of interpreting a historical defeat? Reframing it through local pride, saying, our magic protected us? Or was it genuinely believed that Mayong's tantrics used some kind of magic? Maybe illusions, maybe causing disease, maybe psychological terror that led to the army collapsing or getting lost. It's quite possible the legend is a mix of history and magical interpretation. Maybe the tough terrain, disease, guerrilla tactics played a part. And the local people, already believing deeply in Mayong's magic, just attributed the win to the most powerful force they knew. Regardless, this legend helps cement Mayong's reputation, not just as a place of individual magic, but as a force that could change the course of major conflicts. It elevates its magical status to almost a geopolitical level in the local stories. It tells us that, in this cultural context, magic wasn't just personal. It could be a weapon, a defense for the whole community.
Wow, that's a chilling idea. A whole army gone. It really makes you pause and think about what actually happened and how history gets filtered through belief, often strengthening a community's identity. And then on the darker side, maybe the most unsettling part of these old beliefs, our sources mention something truly chilling, practices like Naravali, human sacrifice, reportedly done in Mayong to gain supernatural powers. That adds a very grim, very profound layer to the whole black magic label. It forces you to confront the extreme lengths people might go to in pursuit of power.
It does. And it's vital to talk about this with sensitivity, but also historical context. When we discuss Nirabali, human sacrifice, it's important to place it within the spectrum of extreme tantric traditions, without obviously endorsing or sensationalizing it. In some very esoteric historical tantric paths, across different cultures, extreme rituals, even offering life, were believed to gather immense spiritual energy, or appease certain deities to get extraordinary powers, those cities. It was often seen as the ultimate offering, giving the ultimate power, a desperate, maybe final step for extreme spiritual or material goals. Now, the phrasing reportedly performed is really key here. It emphasizes that the belief in such practices and the fear of them persisted, even if these acts were incredibly rare, maybe done only by specific hidden groups or have long stopped. This isn't just a grim story. It becomes a potent symbol burned into the village's identity. The fact that this is part of Mayong's lore, it solidifies its black magic reputation in the strongest, most disturbing way. It tells us that, for centuries, Mayong was seen as a place where chasing power could literally involve the ultimate, most terrifying sacrifice. It suggests a willingness to go to the absolute edge in that quest, setting Mayong apart even from other tantric centers.
So what does this all really mean for understanding the depth and maybe the darker aspects of these ancient beliefs? How does a community today deal with such a grim past in its identity?
Well, it means that the pursuit of power through these practices wasn't taken lightly. It could involve the most profound, most unsettling costs. The accusation, or just the enduring legend, of Narabali carries huge weight for how the village is seen. It paints this picture of a place where the stakes in magic were incredibly high, where the boundaries of what was allowed were pushed right to the limit in the search for supernatural abilities. That forms a powerful part of Mayong's mystique. It creates awe, but maybe also dread. For the community now, while obviously these practices aren't happening or condoned, the legends are like a stark reminder of the immense power people believe their ancestors had and the profound impact of their spiritual heritage. Even the parts that are hard to understand or accept today. It's a sobering look at the complex, sometimes frightening sides of ancient spiritual quest and how deeply these actions or just the belief in them got etched into a place's story and how the world sees it.
That really gives us a comprehensive, if sometimes unsettling feel for Mayong's mystical core and its intense history. Okay, let's shift gears slightly to something a bit more linguistic, but just as fascinating. Our sources talk about several different ideas for where the name Mayong actually comes from. It might be from Maya, meaning illusion, or Myung, meaning elephant, or maybe even Maybong, which was an old Kachari kingdom. It's fascinating how one name can hold so many potential stories, right? So many layers of meaning, each hinting at a different side of this incredible place.
It really is fascinating. The etymology, the origin of a place name, often hold its essence, its history, its main characteristics. It's like digging linguistically. And each of these ideas from Mayong, they give us a different but equally rich way to look at the village's complex identity and its deep-rooted beliefs. Let's take Maya first. If Mayong comes from Maya, which in Indian philosophy means illusion, magic, the idea that the world isn't always what it seems, that reality can be like a grand illusion, well, that directly plugs into the village's main theme, doesn't it? This origin would suggest the place itself is soaked in this ethereal mystical quality, where reality can be bent, changed, seen differently. It would highlight the idea that Mayong is a place where magic and illusion aren't just things people do, they're part of its very essence. It fits perfectly with the Land of Black Magic nickname and those spooky stories of people vanishing or animals being spellbound. It speaks to this deep cultural sense that Mayong is a place where normal rules might not apply, where the veil between ordinary and extraordinary is super thin. It's almost like too perfect, as if the name itself reflects its mystical nature.
Yeah, that Maya connection feels almost faded, doesn't it? Like the name itself is a kind of spell, or at least a constant reminder of the unseen forces there.
Exactly. Then you have Myong, meaning elephant. Assam, we know, is famous for elephants. And elephants are powerful, smart, deeply respected animals in many Asian cultures. They often symbolize wisdom, strength, even royalty. So if the name comes from Myong, it could point to a deep connection with animal-taming magic, linking directly to those legends of wild beasts being controlled by spells. It would show the Mayong practitioner's mastery over even the biggest, strongest animals, suggesting a unique kind of animal handling that went beyond normal methods. Or it could mean power drawn straight from nature, a connection to the raw, wild strength of the region's animals. This angle would ground Mayong's magic more in the natural world, suggesting deep ecological knowledge, maybe even a shamanistic link to the land and its creatures, where their power comes not just from abstract rituals, but from really understanding and commanding their environment.
So from pure illusion to raw natural power, the possibilities are really diverse. They paint such different pictures of the kinds of magic involved. And what about Maybong? That hints at a totally different kind of historical importance.
Yes, indeed. Maybom was a major Kachari kingdom, historically south of Mayong, that was prominent between the 16th and 18th centuries. If Mayong comes from Maybom, it suggests a significant historical or political role for the village, beyond just its magic reputation. This origin would tie Mayong to a major ancient political entity. It could mean it was a strategic outpost, maybe a spiritual capital, or a place with real influence within that kingdom. It suggests Mayong wasn't just a hidden spot for mystics, but was actually part of the bigger political picture, maybe providing spiritual or magical help to the rulers, or even being a refuge or training ground for people connected to the kingdom's secret practices. This adds another vital layer to its past, moving beyond just magical stories to include historical and political weight. It potentially suggests that Mayong's magic was deeply tied into the power structures of old dynasties, maybe even acting as a source of authority, legitimacy, or unique advantages for rulers. It hints at a time when Mayong's influence reached far beyond its own borders, affecting regional power dynamics. So each proposed origin gives us a different but equally compelling way to see Mayong's complex past, from its mystical heart focused on illusion and magic, to its deep bond with the powerful natural world symbolized by elephants and animal mastery, and finally, to its significant historical and political roots linked to ancient kingdoms. This linguistic exploration really shows beautifully how a place's name can hold this rich tapestry of meanings, cultural, spiritual, historical, each hinting at a different, profound part of its identity and how it's been seen and shaped over millennia. It reminds us that language itself holds deep cultural memories.
It's just incredible how much meaning can be crammed into one word, giving us such a full picture of Mayong's history and mystery. But Mayong isn't just stuck in ancient history and spooky legends. It's a living community right now in the modern world. And our sources highlight this really interesting bridge between the ancient and modern. the Mayong Central Museum. Apparently, it holds relics, ancient texts on Tantra, and also Ayurveda. What does having a museum like this mean for a place like Mayong? A place that was once wrapped in so much mystery, maybe even fear?
Oh, the Mayong Central Museum plays an absolutely vital role in preserving, but also interpreting, Mayong's unique, often misunderstood mystical past. For a place that was hidden in secrecy and awe for so long, having a dedicated museum, it signals this deliberate, profound shift, moving from just oral stories and private practices to a more public, organized way of preserving and educating. It's a really powerful statement. It's like Mayong is saying, instead of just whispering about our past, we're now curating it, explaining it, presenting it to the world, and having these potent texts and relics, especially on Tantra and Ayurveda, openly displayed. That's incredibly significant. It helps, demystify some of the practices. It allows for a more nuanced, maybe more scholarly understanding. It highlights this unique mix of magic, Tantra, and medicine Ayurveda found in these old texts. Ayurveda, for those listening, is the traditional Indian system of medicine, focusing on holistic healing, mind-body balance. Having both Tantric and Ayurvedic texts shows the holistic nature of ancient knowledge in Mayong, where the spiritual and the practical, the esoteric and the therapeutic, weren't separate things, but deeply linked. This initiative, it shapes understanding, both locally fostering pride, keeping younger generations interested in their heritage, and externally, moving beyond just sensationalism towards a deeper appreciation of Mayong's rich intellectual and spiritual traditions. It suggests a move towards engaging with their past academically, making it accessible for study, not just scary stories. It's really about taking ownership of their own narrative.
That's a really powerful way to reclaim that narrative, isn't it? To present it as this source of ancient wisdom, holistic knowledge, not just black magic. And it's not just about archiving the past. Mayong also has these vibrant natural attractions that are very much alive today. Our sources mention the nearby Pobitora Wildlife Sanctuary, famous for its huge density of one-horned rhinos. And there's a whole range of tourism now, ecotourism, river tourism, even archaeological exploration. It's pretty incredible that this place, so full of legends and ancient lore, also offers such amazing natural beauty and modern ecotourism options.
It's incredible, yeah. And it tells us a lot about Mayong now and its future. It shows Mayong isn't just stuck in time, defined only by its old mystique. It's actively engaging with its profound past while looking ahead through sustainable tourism, through preservation. This blend of mystical heritage and natural wonders, it offers a really holistic, unique experience for visitors. Integrating ecotourism, river tourism around Pobitora, which is world-renowned for those rhinos, it shows a commitment to developing sustainably, using their natural assets. This broader engagement helps diversify Mayong's identity beyond just magic. It shows it as a place of rich biodiversity, natural beauty, a key part of Assam's natural heritage. For visitors, it means there are multiple ways to engage. You can explore ancient ruins and legends one minute, and then experience the thrill of seeing rhinos or the beauty of the Brahmaputra the next. It creates this multi-layered encounter with the region. Now, does tourism dilute the mystery or enhance it? That's a tricky balance. You could argue both sides. For some, yeah, maybe lots of tourists make it feel less unknown, maybe even turn the sacred into a commodity. But for others, it's a unique chance to experience the culture, the legends firsthand, maybe enhancing appreciation by making it more accessible, more understandable. This engagement also helps us understand Assam overall by showing how interconnected its cultural heritage is with its natural environment. Mayong today serves as this living example of how ancient beliefs and history continue to shape a place in the modern world, adapting, finding new ways to survive while honoring its profound legacy. For you, listening, it's like living proof that history isn't static. It's always evolving, even to most ancient places.
It truly is a living example of that. It really makes you think about how history, belief, nature, how they can all coexist and evolve in such a unique way. Paints a much richer picture than just one story ever could. Hashtag, tag, hashtag, outro. So we've really journeyed through Mayong, haven't we? From its location, shrouded in mystique on the Brahmaputra, to its deep historical roots reaching back to the Mahabharata ancient dynasties. We've unpacked the meanings in its name, explored those captivating, sometimes unsettling legends, vanishing armies, reported dark practices. And finally, we've seen how this incredible place is now bridging that ancient past with today. Through the museum, through sustainable tourism. Mayong, yeah, it's without a doubt a living legend, wrapped in mystery, myth, and magic.
It really is. It leaves us with a compelling thought to chew on. How do places like Mayong really challenge our own understanding of what's real, what's possible, especially in a world that leans so heavily on science and conventional explanations? What is its continued existence, the fact that these stories persist, that the community actively preserves these traditions? What does that tell us about the enduring power of belief, of storytelling, and maybe, just maybe, about forms of knowledge that exist outside our usual Western framework?
Yeah, it forces us to think about the huge impact of local history, local spiritual practices on a community's identity, and how those stories keep shaping a place, its people, its future. Maybe Mayong isn't just a village in Assam. Maybe it's like a mirror reflecting these deeper, often unseen forces that shape human experience. It's a powerful reminder, isn't it, that there's always more to learn, more to understand, and countless other corners of the world waiting with their own extraordinary tales. We really encourage you to reflect on the richness of cultural stories everywhere, maybe explore similar places, similar topics yourself, just dive deeper into the layers of human belief and history. And that's all the time we have for this deep dive. Thank you so much for joining us on this really extraordinary journey into Mayong. Until next time, keep digging, keep questioning, and keep exploring.